Welcome to Conversate, our podcast where we engage in conversation. On this week's episode, Aaron and Kevin are talking about hope and the resurrection from the dead. So as we begin this new sermon series called Surprised by Hope, it is our goal to rethink heaven and the resurrection and what that means for the mission of the church. So as we engage in this topic over the next number of weeks, it will be our goal, as always in this podcast, to give you conversational topics to think about and then to take and bring into another relationship that you have with someone else. Start a conversation, start talking on these things, and watch as Jesus makes himself known to you and as you produce hope in those places. So, as always, we hope that you enjoy this conversation.
Ready.
Dink.
Hey, howdy, hey.
Hey, howdy, hey.
Howdy ho there, neighbor. They're my new water bottle.
Treat people like Jesus died for them.
What do you think about that?
Did you stencil that on there?
I did not.
You bought it like that?
Nope.
It was given to you like that?
You got it.
Nice.
Yeah. Kind of dig it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where my usual water bottle is a shade darker than this one. It's like a dark blue, and it's covered in emblems and graphics and things.
Yeah. Why'd you get a new one? Did you throw your other one against a wall and have it explode?
No, but I'm going to tell you, there was someone shared that they really enjoyed those stories. They found it rather amusing.
Oh, really?
Yes. No.
Well, then you're in for a treat.
You give us a demonstration.
Yeah, I would love to.
Don't do it. This is the only one I got right now. Yeah, if anyone sees a dark water bottle with lots of stickers on it, send it my way.
Did you lose it?
Yeah, I don't know where it is, man.
Remember when my water bottle went missing?
Yeah, you even put it. Well, was that your wife that put up posters?
My wife hung up posters all around the church with.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, if you've seen this water bottle and it had to cut off
the tear-offs.
And it was found.
That's right.
What was lost has been found. What was dead is alive again.
Well, it's still an inanimate object. Wait, are we still talking about water bottles?
Sure. And maybe yours will be found again.
Maybe there's a part of me that's dead because my water bottle's lost.
Yeah.
That's the part that needs to be revived.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this water bottle. It's cleaner than my other ones.
It looks cleaner.
Very clean. It's because it never gets used.
Oh, boy. Well, Kevin.
Yeah. Aaron.
It's good to be back on the brown couch with you. We took last week off.
That's right. Little Easter Sabbath.
And the week before that, we were retreating from the crowds.
That's right.
So that was our last episode. And so we're back. We're in the swing of things. Ready to rock.
Yeah.
And we are in a new sermon series at Saints Peter and Paul called Surprised by Hope. Yeah. I'm curious if anybody out there took us up on the offer and went and bought the book.
Purchased it. I followed up with a fella on Sunday who had sent us a message right previously asking for some recommended reading.
Okay.
But that's not one that he's working on, a different one from our list. But I think that was on the list, though, if I remember right. I think that was one that you said, hey, this one's been pretty formative, for me. So, yeah, I at this point am one chapter away from finishing the book. And so, because I had never read this book, just so, if you're listening to this and you're kind of trying to get your head around it, we're in a new sermon series. It's loosely based on a book by the same title, Surprised by Hope by N.T. Wright. You can look that up on Amazon and pick it up if you like, or borrow it if you want to go the cheap route. Just say, hey, can I borrow that? And I'll say, no, I need it for the next several weeks. But yeah, it is a really formative book. N.T. Wright's a great scholar in the New Testament, and he's really good at getting us to kind of go back and just how did those who followed Jesus, who studied under him, that he was their rabbi, how did they talk about their faith,
Yeah.
and kind of trying to get some of these distortions. And there's a lot of times gone by since the old J-Man was walking around.
Hang on. Let me quote Jesus or Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'll be right back.
Well, while he's gone, I'm going to use this moment to stall. Hey, he's back. Oh gosh, he's got the real deal here, folks.
But this is, those of you on YouTube, you can zoom in. But this is the bigger version of Surprised by Hope, called The Resurrection of the Son of God. Wait a second, Volume 3.
Huh? Well, that might just be because some additions were made, right?
Oh,
or is that a different than? You're telling me there's 2 volumes of this book? That's a third of the book. For those who are listening and not visually watching, this is what it sounds like.
Dude, anything would sound like that.
If you can't tell, those were 2 very different objects hitting the microphone.
No, but this one really gets into, the resurrection of Jesus, and in your sermon you briefly touched on it. There's so much that can be said about the resurrection of Jesus, and in particular the fact that at the time that Jesus rose from the dead, no one was expecting that Jesus would rise from the dead.
Right.
So, that statement expounded, he really gets into it in this book about why that's important and what that really means. So the point is, like, when Jesus rose from the dead, the predominant groups that were, influencing the world at that time were the Jews or the Greeks, the Greek-minded people, right?
Sure.
So, and in the Jewish world, and this is what you mentioned. You got into a bit of this stuff, but in the Jewish world, the Jews believed that there would be a resurrection from the dead, that everybody would rise at once on the last day. And so the fact that the Messiah rose in advance of everybody else, that didn't compute with their teaching. And then the Greeks, they didn't, most of them thought in terms of like a spiritual existence, a higher being, if they thought of that, right?
Yeah.
Like that, your soul might go on, but the body was materially evil and bad. Corrupt. And stuff.
Right, exactly.
So you got to get rid of that. So, so the point is that the fact that Jesus rose and that the Christian church picked up on eventually on the significance of that and was birthed out of that significant event. The resurrection of Jesus was the preeminent teaching of the early Christian church.
Yep.
The fact that caught on is it's a proof of the fact that the resurrection is real, because it doesn't fit.
Right.
It's not like it's not a convenient thing to say, hey, look, they made it, like the disciples made this up because they're Jewish and the resurrection from the dead, and that wouldn't make sense in that religion. So,
yeah. N.T. Wright, he kind of outlines a few arguments that are made today. And again, you got to remember, we're pretty far removed from these events, but there are historians who do something called like historical criticism.
Yeah.
Right. And where the idea is, okay, we can't really trust what these documents say. We got to think about what's going on, what agendas and motives the people who are writing these things would have. And so some people have purported that later writers, these people came along and wrote this myth about Jesus rising from the dead in order to basically strengthen their movement. And N.T. Wright's point is that makes no sense, because if you were talking to any of the contemporaries of these people, no one would have believed that. Like, it would have just been, that's the dumbest thing we've ever heard. This not even on the plane of understanding. No one would say, oh wow, he must be this like superhuman God thing. They would say that doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah. So it doesn't strengthen your argument to talk about something that is basically just bewildering to people and not very credible. It's not like this is the kind of thing you go around saying and everyone's like, wow, we've been looking for this. No one's looking for this. Like no one's expecting this. So yeah, it didn't build credibility at all for the early Christian movement. It sounded kind of ridiculous. And yet these guys were willing to stake their lives literally on this message that Jesus Christ had risen from the dead.
Right.
Yeah.
So it begins with the resurrection of Jesus, but then, the next logical step then is, well, what does that mean for us? I don't know if that's the next logical step, but that is a logical step. What does that mean for us in terms of our life and our death and what comes after that? Right. And so we're gonna be chatting about this for a number of weeks, and so it's we're not just giving you one shot at this, but we might as well just start having the conversation already, because you did in your sermon, right, that as Jesus rose from the dead, so too will we rise from the dead. And this is the way that the Bible speaks. The Bible is always taking us to resurrection and the restoration of the creation as our hope.
Yeah.
The Bible does not really ever talk about the fact that that death would be our hope.
Like it'll sometimes allude to it in different places. So like Paul for instance, right? Like he'll say, it's better. Like I'm in prison right now. Things are pretty crummy. But God's got me here for a reason. Although if I end up dying in this whole thing, hey, that ain't so bad.
Right.
Because I'll go be with Christ. Right. But Paul isn't saying that in that moment to say, and that's the whole point of my hope, or that's the end of my hope.
Right.
So like the Bible does allude to this reality of, and again, it's like how much can we really say about heaven? Even not much in terms of what it looks like, what it
Well, let me just stop you right there, because there's I think we're dealing often with terms and definitions and ideas about words and ideas. So just the idea of heaven, and we're going to I think we've got a whole week on this. It's one of them. We'll talk about heaven and hell, but let's just get it out already. But when we talk about heaven, heaven is the place where God is, right? I mean, heaven it's God's place. It's
conceptually, like this is how I understand it, right? Because the Bible will use the word like the heavens a lot, aranos, right? Which is like sky.
Yeah. Well, just like we do it in English too, right? We look up at the heavens.
Yeah, right. I mean, normally people don't say that, but they might say like we look up at the stars or the clouds.
I mean,
but you could. It would still work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like conceptually, like when we think of where God is, like we're spatial beings. We live in space, and matter. God is beyond all that, but my brain can't comprehend. Yeah. So if I'm going to look at direction, to pray to God or to imagine kind of where God is, I look up. I don't know. Because up is like, it just makes more sense. God's not below me. He's like bigger and high. There's more space up there. I don't know how. I guess he could be underground, but normally we denote that with like bad things.
Well, yeah. And again, Paul and the Bible will talk about set your minds on things that are above, not on earthly things. Right. And so outside of what we can see and experience, God is. But I think, at least the way that I always thought about this when I heard heaven, I always pictured that this was the place that you go when you die, and it's a different kind of experience than this one, and the streets are paved with gold, and the buildings are all white, and everybody's got to, well, if you ask the question to people, what's heaven?
Describe heaven.
Yeah. Everybody's got something to say.
Yep. But where did we get these ideas?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of my curiosity. I was going to ask you even, like, when you talk about the roads being paved with gold, now that is an image from the scriptures.
Yeah.
From Revelation. But even in Revelation, I mean, if we're talking about Revelation, you got to know that you're reading a book that's not trying to be literal, right? So like the Bible will talk about heaven or the heavens, but it's rarely saying, hey, this is exactly what heaven looks like, where it's located, and what what the experience of being there will be like. It talks in metaphors, in imagery, that tries to help get the concept across to us, but we don't get a blueprint really for heaven. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I'd think about heaven, and I usually imagined, for whatever reason, kind of like bathing in a chocolate milkshake.
Oh,
that was my vision of heaven.
Forever.
Well, that was I struggled with the eternity part because
still.
Yeah. When I think about some weird abstract thing, I struggle. But then when I think about life here, I'm always saying, oh gosh, I wish I had more time. Oh man, my kids are growing up too fast.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish, like time is fleeting in this experience. And so when it comes to this life, I find myself saying, I wish I had more time, which again kind of helps underscore, well, maybe there's something to that, right?
So heaven is where God is, and the Bible is giving us this image that heaven comes to earth as our eternal hope. Just as, that's what God created in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. So in the very beginning, God created. We assume. We don't. God doesn't say, "I created because I was bored." I created, because I. But we get the idea that God in Himself is love. Right. God is love.
Yeah.
And so God created all things out of His divine love, His goodness, His mercy. And so creation is an expression of God's love, and He created humans to be image bearers of that love into the world. And so this is, and then God was present with His creation, walking
in the cool of the day. Yeah.
And so even then throughout the Bible, we see that God there is, sin brings a separation into the world, but God is always desiring to come and to meet with His people, to make Himself known to them in ways that are tangible. So He makes Himself known to them throughout the Bible. You can think about like the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night.
Yep.
You can think about the fact that he shows up to prophets and he speaks clearly to them. He's located. His glory comes and dwells both in the tabernacle and in the temple.
Which, by the way, the tabernacle and the temple, both in their design, like their interior design, have all sorts of images that reflect one back to the garden. There's lots of garden imagery in the banners and on the curtain. The curtain, actually, I didn't know this. This isn't a children's book that we got for Lily for Easter called the Curtain, the Cross, and Jesus or something. But anyways, the curtain in the temple had an image of the angels with the angels that had the swords.
Really?
Yeah, at the garden. Blocking access to God.
Yeah.
Which would make sense to go on the curtain, right?
Yeah,
because the curtain separated God's holy space from the rest of the community. So anyways, but these are places where God is coming to be with His people. Yes.
And then most fully in the scriptures and in history, God does this as He Himself comes and takes on flesh.
Right.
In Jesus.
The ultimate fulfillment of all these theophanies.
Right.
Yeah.
Still to this day, God makes Himself present to us in ways that we can touch and taste and see. So these are the sacraments of baptism and the Lord's Supper. God is still making Himself known to us. In the Bible, God makes Himself known to us as His word is revealed to us. And so God is not far away
Yeah.
He's not far away. He's continuing to make himself known to us, bringing heaven to earth. And one day that new Jerusalem will come down out of heaven, beautifully adorned as the bride and the groom come together, and this perfect wedding is made once and for all, saved.
That was a very good catch.
Did you see that?
Yes. If you are listening, Aaron almost poured hot coffee on his pants.
Should we? Yesterday before church. Yes. Sorry.
Want to make it known?
I mean, this is just.
You want me to martyr myself?
What?
Be a witness.
Yeah.
That's really Greek word.
Yeah. You were there. You were
I
there.
was
You
there.
saw it. Yesterday before church, Kevin and I were moving flower stands around, and they had the Easter lilies on them. They're these tall stands, and I bumped one, and the lily did a flip off of the stand, and I caught it by its stem, like
Behind your back,
pretty
right?
much.
Yeah.
And I saved its life, and I picked it up, put it right back on the stand. Didn't even drop a petal.
Were you there when?
All
Yes,
right.
I was.
So there you go. I get it. Okay, so God is always making himself. He's bringing heaven to earth,
Yeah.
And that's the eternal hope is that one day all things will be made new, and we will be in God's presence, never to die again, never to cry again, never to mourn, never to get sick, never to be broken, once and for all.
Right. So heaven is breaking in to our reality through the scriptures, like the scriptural narrative. It's kind of God always breaking in, especially in these desperate moments and when they need him. But yes, the ultimate hope is that in all of its fullness, the heavenly reality breaks into the world as we know it. So it's no longer the world as we know it. It's a whole new world.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, we could. Yeah, I mean the scriptures filled with images, but I was thinking about it in terms of the weather. So, like today is there's a bunch of snow and clouds here in Houghton, Michigan.
Yeah.
On April 17th, when over the weekend all the snow was gone.
It was like 70.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yep.
Absolutely beautiful. My kids said it might have been too hot. So.
Oh, here you go, kids.
This morning, they woke up and they said, I said, "Hey, it's winter again." And they go, "Oh." I said, "Are you going to go play in it, or are you just going to be mad all day?" They go, "We're just going to stay inside." So, it just, so with the weather, if we want to use this as a metaphor, on the nice days, and I mean, we were cleaning out our flower beds and raking. We had flowers that were blooming in the flower beds.
Trees are budding out there.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're just back in what feels like death, Okay. So what do we do? I mean, what do you do about that? What kind of attitude do you have about the weather? Yeah. I think you can look at it and you could say, "Wow, this is terrible." I'm not. I mean, like my kids. Like, I'm just gonna be mopey and I'm just gonna sit inside and do nothing. Right? You could embrace it somehow. Go build a snowman.
You could go sledding.
Yeah. I don't know. Or just like in your attitude, it's sort of like spring is so close. Like I just tasted it.
Yeah.
Like I just experienced the beauty of spring.
I know
like
it's warm.
2 days ago. Like I've felt it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Right. I touched it. So and I know with the calendar year, like I know that the snow always melts and that the earth tilts towards the sun and it will warm up once
it's
again.
like spring is gonna come.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so like in our attitude, we can have that eager anticipation, even if I don't want to embrace the snow, I can have that eager anticipation of like, even if it's tomorrow, even if it's next week, I know it's coming. I know it's coming. So like, I don't need to be bummed out.
Sure.
That's fine. That's great.
Yeah.
And so, you can expand that out then to life, So, I mean, we know this reality. Some days life is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So things just
don't go.
They just stack up against you.
Yeah.
Or just death is upon you. I mean, maybe it's a tragedy or just bad news or the afflictions of the devil and temptation. It's just like, and maybe it's all of that. And it's day after day after day. And it's just like, this season is rough,
Mm-hmm.
What do we do about it? What kind of attitude do we have? What sort of posture do we take? Well, where we're trying to go in the sermon series is to say, even on those days, hope is still real.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that suffering is not real. Suffering is real. Just like snow is real.
Mm-hmm.
Suffering is real. Spring is real. Hope is real. Resurrection is real.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's very soon. Right? It's very, very soon. It's coming.
Yeah.
And so I'll live today, even in the midst of my suffering, as a person of hope. Because I know that even this suffering it's momentary, right? I mean, it's a momentary thing in the grand scheme of my eternal life.
Yeah. Well, I think there's also something to like the fact that we had that little blip of super good weather, a couple days ago, because it's just as that made what will come in a much bigger and longer way, in season for us soon here. Yeah. I got to taste it, and getting to taste it, like, I don't know, it keeps me going. Like, I'm thinking back to it, I'm like, man, that was really good.
Yeah.
That was really fun. That was so warm. I can't wait. It's going to get warm again. And I'm excited about that. I want to wear shorts now, but it's cold. But, I'll get my shorts out of the basement anyway.
Yeah, get ready for it.
Exactly. It's like I might as well get prepped. In the same way, when we believe or when we think about Jesus' resurrection and this living hope that we talk about, a living hope, again, this is something that we can kind of touch and access even in the wintry times of our life. So when I am in the midst of struggle and distress and, say spiritual attack, this is not, it's what the devil wants me to think is that I am in winter, and winter's here to stay, and winter's going to be a real long season, and it's just going to be cold days ahead, But the reality of Jesus being alive is I can go to him. He's not far off. Like he's not distant. He has broken into this world, and that's part of the whole bringing heaven. Let thy kingdom come here on earth. That's what Jesus came and did in his ministry and in his death on the cross, and he's given us the access by sacrament, by the word, by prayer, where I can kind of thaw myself when I'm in this wintry time. Let me go to Jesus, Let me take to Jesus the bemoaning that I have, the laments that I have. Let him put it his way, because he said, hey, I'm here for that, Like, hey, if you're weary, you got a burden, bring it to me. Let me take it. I've taken it already, right? On the cross. I've done something about this. Don't listen to those lies about winter sticking around. I am gonna bring spring eternal, but I'm even here. This spring is here for you now. Come to me now. Be filled by me. Recharge yourself on the hope that you have in me, because, I'm here and I'm present for you to access, which is very different than kind of thinking, well, he's going to come one day. Yeah. It's like, no, today, while it's still today, go to him,
Yeah. And as we keep fleshing this out, this is where we're really going to be taking this, is that our resurrection hope is, yes, for the future, but very, very much for today.
Yeah. There's a weird word for that, prolepsis, right? You know that word?
I don't know that word.
Prolepsis, or proleptic is like the adjective, but it's like talking about something that's like, it's future, but it's also now. And I cannot really think of anything. Maybe like marriage in the Bible, when they do the whole like Joseph and Mary, they weren't married yet.
Yeah.
But he's going to divorce her. How do you divorce someone you're not married to?
Well, right. I mean, they were committed to one another,
right?
But had not consummated that marriage yet.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. We don't really have the equivalent of that, but
I'm sure there's something
that seems proleptic.
Yeah. So, but we want to get to this point, and we're gonna drive this home over these coming weeks, because this is the beauty of having a true idea of the resurrection hope affects our Christian existence right now in everything that we do. So a lot of times, a lot of people who are confessing Christians, I think, ask themselves the question, okay, I believe in Jesus. I believe in the Bible. I believe that there's more to life than just this existence. I believe, and then they'll say, I believe that when I die, I'll go to heaven. And then, so I guess I just, right now, I go to church and
avoid certain habits.
Yeah, don't do certain stuff. And then, I guess wait to die.
Yeah.
And we want you to know that, like, having a resurrection hope affects everything, because even right now, today, you have eternal life. So your eternity, your eternal existence does not start
when you die.
When you die,
yeah,
at some future point, and you're just waiting around to die. You are already born anew. You are new in Christ. You're a new creation even now. By believing in Jesus, by being baptized into his name, eternal life is yours now. Death is a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
And you're alive. I mean, you're alive forever.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, keep going.
Well, so if you just think about that then, and you think about, okay, well, I know I have an idea of what perfection will look like in eternity. It will be the absence of all that is wrong and bad. So I am to live and strive for those things now. Live now as though I'll be in the same way I'll be living in perfection.
That's right. Yep.
So work towards, forgiving, restoring what's broken things, broken creation, broken bodies, broken relationships. Just keep, tinkering on those things. Strive to work on it. Strive for life.
Yeah. Because the life after this life is not some sort of totally disconnected, unrelated to your existence now. Like, it's not something that's just like, yep, we'll die and then we'll go somewhere else and it's gonna be totally different.
Yeah.
And totally unconnected.
Well, and the things that we do.
Yeah.
And the relationships that we have and the way that we speak in those relationships has eternal significance.
That's big.
Yeah. Every one of us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, think on that, right? It's like, okay, well, the opportunities that I have to introduce somebody else to Jesus and to bring hope into their life, well, that's bringing hope. That's bringing like eternal life into their existence. And yes, forever, but also for today. Like,
right.
You're bringing heaven to bear in their life even now, because we'll talk about it more and more.
Yeah.
But even like, so heaven is not just some other time and other place, but is accessible now. Same with hell. So hell is an eternal existence apart from God for eternity for those who are apart from Jesus. But hell also makes itself known here as well in the world. And I think you can probably picture places where that is, where God's name is ridiculed and mocked, and darkness dwells and prospers.
Yeah, or where death is the reigning thing, whether it's, a recent shooting you see, or, a tragedy like that, people will say, well, I went through hell, and that makes sense. Yeah. So heaven and hell, we're saying, the scriptures almost would say they're more of it's like a reality as opposed to like a physical space and don't think so much spatially about it, because that's us just not understanding things. I was trying to make concepts that are really hard to understand like make more sense, but it's possible to experience these things even now, even today. Yeah.
So let's not end on that note. Let's bring it back to a positive note.
Okay.
Which is that, hey, heaven is coming to bear in your life right now. God is speaking into your life, and you're praying that kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In my life, in my home, in my family, in my neighborhood, in my workplace, God, come as you promised to come and make yourself known in these places. Right? And this is the way that we want to orient ourselves, to be these people of hope.
Yeah.
That hope resides within us, and that we can trust it. It's not just a fleeting thing, not just an emotion that we have trying to get ourselves in the right mind, but it's a very tangible, real thing that God has proven in his past actions that he's capable of actually making good on.
Yeah. And that he produces as you lean into him. Like he will produce this hope. So take advantage of the ways he has made it possible for you to access him.
Yeah.
In word, in sacrament, in relationships. Pray to him. Look for him.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout. It's kind of exciting. It's like an adventure.
Yeah. All right. Much more to come. I think this is good for today. So, Kevin, as always, buddy, it's good to sit and chat with you and be back on the brown couch.
Cheers.